to another session of OAUMedtalks. This is powered by OAUMed 2005. My name is Adegunleye Babatope. I'm a proud member of OAUMed 2005. I graduated with this lovely set of people, wonderful men, wonderful women. I finished talking about myself for a little while. I finished and went for housemanship in my state. I went to serve my state, you know. Some stayed back in Ife to serve the federal government, but I decided to go back to serve my state. And then I now went for the proper youth service. Although by then, some of us were not actually youths again, but we were still youths in bracket of the NYSC. And I served in Rivers State. I served with the Nigerian Air Force, 97 Special Operations Group. And shortly after my service, I went back to Ondo State to get into the state civil service fully. And I spent quite a number of years in the state civil service in Ondo State, giving back to my state and everything before I left for other things. Looking back in school, it was, if only we had known, maybe we'll have made it better. At times now, you just wish you could go back and do things a little differently. And but then, it is what it is. I was, well, I would say quite popular back then too. Some were more popular, but I was popular in my set too, I'm sure. I was into sports. I was, I remember I was the director of sports of IFUMSA then during my set. And I was the college goalkeeper from my, I think, 200 level. Yes, I was a Chilava or Lafare. So I was the goalkeeper back then, 200, 300, 400, 500. And we won, despite being medical students, we were able to win at least maybe once, not, if I'm not mistaken, once or twice, the Interfaculty Cup back then. So even as medical students back then, we were able to not do just medicine alone. We're able to go into other things. And then, of course, I'm sure this has been mentioned before. There were some very lovely politics during our sets. It was, at least, I don't know what obtains now, but then medical school and medical politics was the talk of the old school then. And I can also remember we had, during our time, a very good innovation. I can maybe I remember what we called it CyberMed then. CyberMed was one of the innovations of our set, and I was one of the pioneers. Back then, I was, you know, it's either, if you are looking for some of us, you'll find us in the CyberMed and everything. But we did try our best back then. And then after, when it was time also, you know, when the spirit got when the bell rang, let me put it that way, we decided to move on to other things too, left the shores of Nigeria, and all well and good. It has been fun and fun and fun. And I remember, you know, many of us who always say, oh, when you finish from Ife, no, I won't go back there again. But then, when I wanted to do my master's in public health, I remember I had nowhere to go. It was back to Ife. And, you know, the familiar settings, it was a whole lot of fun again, going back there and having to meet all the lecturers, doing things, and the familiar place like that. Today, I'm going to be speaking, you know, when I saw the flyer and I was approached and I got to know, one of the reasons I accepted anyway, don't let your head swell, auntie, was when they told me I was going to be paired with Tomide. You know, back then, you know, we were quite good friends and everything, but then after school, for a long time, we never had the opportunity to relate just once in a while, maybe on the WhatsApp group. But today, at least we're able to bond before now. It's been fun and fun. So I would, without going so much about myself, because there's nothing much to say anyway, I would like to introduce the main speaker for today, an enigma, Iyalode Babatope. Doctor, there's no other Oriki other than to call you a doctor. Today, we're going to have a Dr. Tomide Oyelakin, who is going to be the main speaker for today. She graduated from the OAUMed school in the year 2005, and then went for an internship at OUTHC, where you all are now, in Ile-Ife, before she proceeded to Jigawa State to do a compulsory youth service. While there, she became interested in public health, and she was working with vulnerable populations during this time, which led to her pursuit of a master's degree in public health from the Harvard Teaching Hospital, T.H. Chan School of Public Health in Boston. As part of her MPH, she spent a month in Salvador, in Brazil, where she was learning about the epidemiology of dengue fever as part of the HSPH DR class collaborative venture, which engendered in her an interest in health outcomes and a career in QI, wherein she worked at the Department of Cardiology at Boston Children's Hospital, establishing their QI program. She created the QI curriculum for pediatric cardiology fellows and developed 41 clinical outcomes, stroke processes, and created the advanced event database for the cardiovascular program. She moved on to a FQHC, where she was the Senior Director of Performance Improvement and worked to improve clinical processes and health outcomes for vulnerable populations. After observing the impact of mental illness and coping with medical diagnosis, she was reminded of her love for psychiatry, which led to another phase of her career. Tomide then went on to complete her residency in general psychiatry at Interfaith Medical Center, Brooklyn. Given her fascination with the developing mind and brain, impact of early life trauma, adversity on childhood development, and neurobehavioral problems, she proceeded to complete a fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry at Harvard Medical School's MGH/McLean Hospital CAP program. Starting this fall, she will be an assistant professor of psychiatry at McGovern Medical School and medical director of rural LMHA telehealth services at UTH Health, Austin. Tomide has research experience, having worked as a data coordinator in the neonatal unit of Boston's Children's Hospital and clinical research associate for Neely Center at Tufts University. She has authored and co-authored peer-reviewed articles and case reports, contributed textbook chapters, and is a reviewer for a peer-reviewed journal. Our clinical interests include mood and anxiety disorders, early childhood trauma and resilience, and externalizing symptoms in children, adolescents. She also continues to work on streamlining workflow and clinical processes to make them more efficient and improve health outcomes. Outside of work, she is married with kids in a non-existent spare time. She loves reading historical fiction, spy thrillers, watching TV shows, dancing, and goofing around with her kids. She's an avid soccer, basketball, and WWE fan. She looks forward to learning how to play the guitar and African talking drum. In a nutshell, this is Dr. Tomide Oyelakin. You can all see that she's an embodiment of a lot of things. She she can fight wrestling, WWE. She plays soccer. She does a lot of things. She's a researcher. She's been into psychiatry. She's been into child health. She's been to Brazil to go and deal with dengue fever. Above all, everything she got this all from OAU Med School, which we are all proud of. Please make welcome Dr. Tomide Oyelakin.
Thank you very much, Tapadeg. It's a pleasure to be here. And like Tapadeg was saying, when we're in med school, we're always like, oh, I would never come back to Ife. I'll never do anything for Ife and stuff like that. But I find myself wanting more and more to give back to my alma mater. So I guess the conversation we're having today actually is, in retrospect, a conversation with my younger self, which is basically another way to look at what I would call things I wish I knew 1, 2, 3 decades ago. I mean, I'm just 21 years of age, so 2, 3 decades ago is saying a lot. But things I wish I knew when I was in med school, things I wish I knew when I was starting my medical journey. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about, because there's some things that I felt that if I had someone tell me then, maybe I would have listened, maybe I would not have listened, but if I knowing what I know now, they would definitely have made a difference in the path that I chose to get to where I am. I think the first thing that I'll tell my younger self is don't worry. In capital letters, do not worry about anything. You'll be all right. It's important to know, it would have been important for me to know then that all the anxiety, all the fretting, all the stress that you put yourself through, worrying about the future, doesn't really matter in the long run. Not saying that you shouldn't plan for your future, but I would tell myself, I'm like Tomide or like Tommy girl, Tommy boy, whatever people used to call me then. Don't worry about the future. It'll turn out just all right. Another thing that I would tell my younger self is that it's okay to not be the best student in your class or the best student amongst your friends or the best student in your set or in your generation. Be the best version of yourself that you can be and be true to yourself. A lot of times we run ourselves ragged in the rat race of life because we want to be the best. It's okay to be the best in everything you do. But then if you can't be, just make sure that you're the best version of yourself. I think that's more important than being true to yourself. That's something that I've come to learn in life. Have fun like a teenager. Have fun like a 20-something-year-old. When I look back to my med school days, there were times that I look back, I'm like, oh, maybe I could have done this more. People that know me very well in school, they know that I love dancing. I was like, oh, maybe I could have danced more. And there's some of my classmates that joined dance groups. There's some of my classmates that we dance together in private, but just like enjoy yourself. There's more to life than being a physician, than being a doctor. Another lesson that I've learned is that we're all flawed and we make mistakes. No one is perfect and no one should be held to unachievable standards. It doesn't make sense for you to place someone on the pedestal and then when they fall off the pedestal, you get upset with them. Once you have it at the back of your mind, like that senior resident, that medical student, that my friend, that pastor, that this is human and is flawed and he'll make mistakes, then you don't feel so disappointed when they don't meet up to your expectations because you're like, it's okay, last, we'll all do all right. Another lesson that I think I've learned, or something else that I hold dear to me now, is knowing my strengths and playing to it. There's no use pretending to be a lion when you're a goat. There's no use pretending to be an elephant when you are a tortoise. So identify your strength. Some people, they read a textbook once and they remember every single word, every single line they've read. If you're that kind of person, it's okay. A day before your exam, cram your textbooks, regurgitate in the exam. Some of us, we need to read multiple times before we understand, multiple times before we remember. But the key is kind of like figure out what your strength is. Some people have very beautiful writing skills, which in med school, the way IFA is structured, you wouldn't necessarily need it. But then when you start to explore the world outside of med school, you come to realize like, oh, all right, this is something that I should have developed, I should have built on, and I can do things outside of that. And I think one thing that I really tell myself that I should have done more of is being bold and take risks. You know, and it's not just risk in terms of like my career, but it's also risk in terms of like my personal life. Not saying that you should do dangerous things that will get you into trouble, but just don't let the fear of being embarrassed, the fear of failing, don't let it stop you from trying to explore. So a little about kind of like my life's journey to being a doctor. I think this is the first time that I'm kind of saying this out loud, that being a doctor wasn't something that, you know, how some kids wake up from like when they're 2, 3, their parents ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I don't think I was ever that child, or at least I don't have any memories of that. But if you are from Nigeria, which I'm assuming all of us are from, there were only 3 professions when we were young. You were either a doctor, you were a lawyer, or you were an engineer. Everything else was kind of like, oh, so it was a thing of pride for your parents to say, ah, where's your daughter? Ah, she's in med school. Ah, which med school? She's in Ife. We're like, hey, clap for her. She's done well. Or what's your? Oh, she's in law school and things like that. So I think I was just kind of like, my path was gently steered from my childhood towards medicine. So by the time I got to med school, that was all I knew. That was all I wanted to do. Either because it was voluntary from my heart, or it was something that I was volunteered for. I mean, I'm not complaining. I love being a physician. I love being a doctor. I've made great connections in med school. But I bring this up because there might be some people that they were voluntold into medicine, they were conscripted into medicine, steered, engineered into med, whatever path got you into med school. It's okay to know that at the end of the day, it's going to be all right. You know, there's life in and outside of medicine. And there's people like, a personal example for me is my cousin who left med school halfway. I think she left part 3 and she went into a completely different field, and she's happy and she's excelled in what she's doing. So however you found yourself in medicine, if you choose not to continue the path afterwards, just know that it's going to be all right at the end of the day. It might sound a little bit cliche what I'm about to say next, but there's some other things that I know now that I wish I knew then. One of them is, or I think a big one for me is, it's okay to not have it all figured out by the time you graduate. So I remember when I was leaving med school, you know, we will talk something like, oh, I'm going to be a surgeon. I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. I knew what I wanted to be. But now I'm like, you know what? It's okay, even if I don't have it figured out. And excuse me, a more recent example is I was doing fellowship, and everybody in my fellowship seemed to know what they were going to do when they were done. Like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. My interest is this. And my attendings will ask, like, Tomide, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, it's okay to figure it out. And so that's okay. But I think what you should know is that while you might not have definite ideas or have it all figured out, like by the time I'm 21, I'm going to buy my first house. By the time I'm 22, I would have graduated from medicine. 27, I'll be an attending cardiologist. 29, I'll be an interventional cardiologist. By the time I'm 35, I would have won a Nobel Prize. By the time I'm 40, I would have changed the world. That's fine if you have it figured out. But if you don't, just have ideas on what you want your future to look like. You know, if you can see it, another cliche phrase, if you can see it, you can, and you believe it, you can achieve it. But have some ideas on what you want things to look like for you. Look at your career, your personal life, your relationships, finance. This is what I would like it to look like. And then write those ideas down and start going from there. I think one thing that we weren't told enough of, I don't recall, like maybe some of my classmates or my colleagues were told this, but I don't recall like ever having anyone tell me this for a very long time, is having a vision board for myself. And part of having that vision board is you have to decide if being in medicine is going to be your long-term goal. Because there's no use running a rat race that you're never going to finish if that's not what you want to do. Like I said earlier, I have classmates, I have a family member who left medicine halfway, they're doing well. I have people that finished med school and they decided not to practice medicine and they're doing great, whatever they decided to do. The thing is, whatever you find yourself doing or whatever you decide to do, carve out a niche for yourself there and excel in it. And then once you, let's say you decide, all right, I want to be a physician, I want to continue in medicine, then start to think about what specialties do you want to do, what's your first choice, second choice, third choice. If all this fails, what's my backup? And I'll tell you why this is important. And then the other thing is you decide what kind of physician do you want to be. There are some people that are purely clinical. I just want to see the patients and go home. There are some people that are researchers. Not only do I want to see patients, but I want to figure out why people have this disease and how can we cure them of this disease, or why are we using this medicine, but decide if that's something you want to do. And if you want to do administrative or leadership, also kind of like have some idea what that is. And then also decide to yourself, do I want to stay in Nigeria? Do I want to travel out? And if you want to stay in Nigeria, fine. If you want to travel out, that's also good. Where do you want to travel out to? And the importance of this is because once you identify these things and you ask yourself these questions, then you can start to figure out what mentors you need and what steps you should take. So if I'm going to travel out of Nigeria, which was the path I took, who are the people? What do I need to talk to? What kind of people do I need to associate myself with that would help me to get to where I want to do? If I want to stay in Nigeria, who do I talk to? Who are the people that have walked this path that I can talk to? And so once you do that, it's easier for you. And then the second thing that I wish I knew then was the importance of mentorship or mentoring, having a mentor in my life. The importance cannot be overemphasized. I remember the mentors most people that I talked to then in med school had was a lot of people talked about Ben Carson because they seem to have done what other Black people couldn't do, was a neurosurgeon, John Hopkins. That's fine. Get mentors through books, but also have a real-time mentor. Find someone who has walked the very path that you would like to walk and get to know them. But don't get to know them just because, oh, when it's time for my letter of recommendation or a reference, I need them. Get to know them because you want to learn from them. You make them your friend, you connect with them offline, you talk to them about personal experiences, career, work-life balance. And you can have mentors from you can have different mentors for different areas of your life. So I have people that mentor me regarding my relationships. I have people that mentor me regarding career. And your mentor doesn't have to be an older person. So I know we always have this perception that, oh, my mentor has to be an attending or a consultant or a professor. He can even be your classmates. There's some of my classmates from OAUMed that I will pick up a phone and call them in a heartbeat and talk to them okay, you've done this before me. What was your experience like? And we go from there. In terms of mentorship, these are some of the things that I wish I knew then, is seek out your mentors early, very early. You can even start from day one of med school. Once you start to think about your vision board and you're okay, this is what I want, or this is what I'm thinking. And goals change, plans change. It's completely okay. You can start out and say, I want to be an ophthalmologist because you did your ophthalmology rotation and it was beautiful and you liked, I don't remember who the ophthalmology doctor that we had then, but I didn't like ophthalmology rotation because of my attending then. But once you figure out, and then you change, I'm you know what, I want to be a pediatrician. And then you can change later and be I want to do this. But whatever it is that you want to do, start finding out people that have walked that path before you, that have experience and they can talk to you. And then actively seek them out. So that was why earlier on I said I wish I had been bolder. That was something that I didn't do. I was a little bit passive when it came to mentoring, and I just if I gravitate towards someone naturally, then they'll be my friend or I'll seek them out. And there were other people that I couldn't approach when I needed letters of recommendation or references because they didn't know me on that personal level. They would write a generic letter for you, but they're not able to write something really great for you. And that's what you want to do, whether you're applying for an MPH, an MBA, residency, whatever or job. You want people that when they pick up the phone, they will speak in glowing terms about you. And so seek them out, reach out, figure out a need that they have. So let's say you're interested in research, but how do I even get published? How do I write an article? I don't even know how to write a case report. How do I do this research? But then you find out there's someone in your department, or there's someone that you know, or even an alumni that does great research work. You reach out to them, you start to get to know them, and you figure out, oh, they need help with their data entry. Oh, well and good, volunteer yourself. I know you don't have time, you're in med school, but volunteer yourself. I'm like, oh, you know what? I can help you with the data entry. That way you get your name into the article. Because even if they don't mention you as a major contributor, they will put your name there like, oh, you helped with the data. And that's how you slowly start to build up what you need and how to get to where you want to get to. So figure out a need that they have and try to fill that. Don't be a psychopath. So figuring out someone's need and trying to fill that gap is not the same as sucking up to them. Using myself as an example, if someone is sucking up to me, I won't even regard you. It has nothing to do with pride. So they need help with this part of, like, don't be like, oh, I'll pick up your laundry, or I'll polish your shoe, or don't worry, you want to eat amala, or you want to pound the yam, I'll get it for you. Just so that's not the same as mentoring. And then be flexible and open to ideas. So I'm a Yoruba girl. I'm from the southwestern part of Nigeria. And usually when adults tell you something, or someone older than you, when they tell you something, you're expected to automatically just be like, oh, yes, sir. Yes, ma. And at times, what they're saying, we don't agree with. And then when you respond or you say something negative, then it becomes like, oh, this person is stubborn, this person is not receptive to ideas. You don't want that image to be painted of you. So even when they're saying things that are not, you don't agree with, or that are not appropriate for the setting that you need them for, just be flexible, just be open. And then you can circle back later and tell them like, okay, the suggestion you gave me before, I don't think it's gonna work. And you clearly state your reason, and then you work together with them. At times, you just take a leap of faith. They're your mentors, they've walked that path before. They might be seeing something that you've not seen before. So that's that. Take advantage of opportunities as they arise. So I will give an example of myself. When I finished my master's, I was doing my USMLE exams, and I was also working as QI. And because of my QI work, it opened so many doors for me. If I had said, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do this QI work because it's not strictly clinical, I'm not actively seeing patients, then some of the doors that opened up for me would not have opened up, and I wouldn't be where I am today. It also helped to build some other skills that when I go to programs, or when I got into residency and I was doing, everybody was like, oh, wow, you have the skill set. And people seek you out, they actively seek you out because of that skill set. I have another friend who's done like a different work, had done some research with some other governmental organization, and that research work basically created a different pathway and opened up doors for him. Take advantages of opportunities to write case reports, publications, help people with their data. Once you have a skill set that people need, they will seek you out. And when opportunities arise for you to advance, they think about you like, oh, there's that doctor that I know, there's that resident that I know, there's that house officer that I know, and he can help with this. And that's how you move forward without even like stressing yourself too much. The other thing that I wish I knew before I left Nigeria was the importance of my resume. Building my resume from day one. So I always tell the story of, I worked with a girl who just finished college like 3 years before we started working together. And on her resume, she had like over 5 years experience. And she wasn't lying, because the things that they count, especially if you're going to travel outside Nigeria, the things that they count as work experience, there are things that we sometimes do, but we don't count it as it. So every accomplishment that you have, put it on it. Find opportunities to volunteer. Oh, in church, I volunteer for like the health day. I go to Ife Market and I help or whatever to take blood pressure. Just build your resume, so that when that opportunity comes, it's already ready for you to go. I remember when I went for my MPH, the first thing I had to do was take it to the counselor at the school that I did my MPH to review my resume. And almost every line we had to edit, we had to fix. And so that's something that I wish I had known. And it was like it was like pulling teeth from me when it was asking questions like, did you do this? Did you do that? I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? I think I did that. And so that's kind of like something else that I wish I'd known. I feel like I'm talking too much. Let's see.
You are not talking too much. Go on.
All right, sorry. Thanks for the feedback. And then the other thing that I have come to realize is very important is like your school/work-life balance. So a lot of us, when we were in med school, we didn't have that because it was like, I have to read, I have to read. I mean, you will stay in class till like the early hours of the morning, you will go back to your room, you sleep for 2-3 hours, you get up, brush, go to class, go to school, go for your clinicals, then come back to class and repeat the same cycle. You only take breaks to eat. For some people that had interest outside of med school, so maybe UEFA time, Euro Cup, FIFA, we would go watch soccer. But for a lot of us, it was kind of like just that grind. But you need a life outside of medicine. You will need it when life throws you a curve, when you're done with med school, and then life slaps you in the face a couple times, then you understand the importance of having interest outside of medicine. So if that's something you can cultivate now, cultivate it. The relationships that you build outside of kind of like class, they are the relationships that will hold you. So you have to think to yourself, who is in your support system? Who are the people that I can call on? Some of my closest friends that I can ask for help, I met in med school. But it wasn't just because we were reading together, it was because outside of class, we also had relationships. We had things that every time we met, we weren't talking about the sartorius muscle or I don't even remember all those muscles anymore, but we weren't talking about kind of like anatomy or physiology. We're talking about things outside of school. And that created that bond. Invest in your family. Don't miss family events. Like, oh, my uncle's birthday, my daddy's this, my brother's this, because of school. You get your medical degree, and then you start looking at, oh my gosh, I have no friends. I have nobody I can call on. Oh, it's my birthday. Who can I invite? I'm getting married. Well, people will come for wedding in Nigeria because there's food. But the point is, invest in people so that when you need them, they will be there for you. And then as part of the school or work-life balance is health is wealth. It might sound very cheesy, but I wish I knew from school how to completely relax. If you don't rest your brain, you can't be creative. You can't think outside the box. You can't come up, see how you meet with your mentor and you're trying to figure out what needs they have that you can feel. You can't do that properly if you're not resting well. Learn how to meditate, relaxation techniques. I know someone had already spoken about kind of like wellness. Take the tips from that and use it, incorporate it into your life. Take time off. A lot of us, I did not know what they call vacation time or resting until maybe a couple years ago. A lot of us, we just work. If you take a cue from the people that have passed on, at the end of the day, everything that you do, what does it amount to if you die suddenly or you have a stroke or something like that? So relax, rest. Your annual physicals, health, wellness check, health check. That's important. We don't do that. We don't typically do that. We're doctors, we're physicians, but doctors make the worst patients. We never tell each other kind of like how to check up, but you can't overemphasize it. There are so many times when things happen that we're like, oh, if only I had done this. I know my personal example, there's stuff that's happened to me that I was like, oh, if I had gone 6 months earlier, maybe we could have fixed this. Now I have to do this. Now I have to do that. So that's kind of like the importance of that. Another thing, another big item for me that I wish I knew when I was in school was financial intelligence. So I was talking to a friend yesterday. I was like, all the money I made from house job, all the money, the peanuts they gave me during NYC, and the few months I worked in Nigeria, I don't know where it is. I can't tell you that this is what I used it to do. But that's where being smart with money, live within your means and save. They said the standard goal is to have 6 months salary saved. You're in med school now, so it might not mean anything, but you start the habits that you want to have as an adult, you start from now. You can track your income and expenditure, so you learn how to balance your money, you learn how to save, have a savings account, and figure out, this is how much I need to live, and this is how much I spend every month, this is how much I need to live, and this is how much I will save. So that as you progress in your career, you start to use those, you've already started. It's like riding a bicycle, you're already training the muscles. So by the time you become proficient, you can just get on the bicycle and ride. You don't have to try to remember, is it the left leg first or the right leg first? And so those are kind of like the things that I wish I'd known. I think the major thing of the overall goal or objective is you don't want to look back on life with regrets. You don't want to look at your time in med school, your time as a house officer, as a resident. I'm like, oh, I wish I had known. You don't want to waste. If someone has done something and they figured out the formula that works very well, why do you want to waste your time trying to recreate that exact formula? Why don't you find a way to work with this person that has done this great thing, so that the excess time that you have left, you can use it for something else? Then you can use that time to win your Nobel Peace Prize. You can use that time to save the world or do something else. The last thing that I wish I had done years ago was actually learn a trade or something, some sort of artisan skill. I had so many interests. I was like, maybe if I'd taken photography serious, designing, drawing. Some of my friends that knew me well in med school, I was always kind of like drawing on people's books. There's a particular person that I was always drawing in his book. And I was like, who knows? Maybe I could have become something, or my heart could be selling and making me some extra income if I'd done that. So if you have a skill set, if you have a talent, build it. You don't know when it will come in handy for you. Again, there's life outside of medicine, whether you choose to stay in the medical profession or you choose to explore other opportunities around you. I think that's all that I have. Thank you all for listening. Again, it's been a pleasure to speak. All right, Dr. Tope, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Listening to you, I definitely wish I could go back, change a few things, make some tweaks, but then it is what it is. We are here now and they are there. They need to now take cues from a lot of what you have said and make necessary decisions. One thing I also learned looking back is, knowing that it's a good thing to know that medicine is medicine. It's service. It's not about, I know a lot of people get that thing wrong now, where all you think about is, a doctor, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be rich. And when that doesn't happen, in quote, you'll be very comfortable, definitely, you will be comfortable. But, when you tend to look at maybe your IT friend or all those people while back in medical school, they were looking at, I don't know how it is for you guys, for you ladies, but for us guys, there's a lot of respect that comes with it. There's a lot of psychs, aliens, and all that. But then, when it all gets sorted, you'd mentioned something about reading partners and having a life outside that. It's not all about being the best student, like you said. It's about being who you are and just being happy doing what you are doing. Because at the end of the day, everything will balance out. Everybody will be fine in whatever you choose to do. You understand? And then, of course, definitely at that level, you choose your path. Not your dad or your mom still telling you, oh, you have to go into psychiatry. You have to go into internal medicine. You have to go into orthopedics and all that. Choose what you want, go back, just be happy. I
Yeah.
think that sums it all up.
Yeah.
Because I know what it was back then, and I don't know if a lot has changed now, but of course I believe a lot will have changed, because like you said, when you were dancing back then, the dancing, the drawing, if there was so much of social media as it is now, back then, maybe you would have discovered, maybe somebody would have discovered you.
Maybe I'll be the dancing doctor now. I'll be the dance, you know.
Yes, maybe like the social doctor, and you know.
Yeah, who knows? You said something. You said something about not being in medicine for money or whatever, and how, you know, people think that doctors make a lot of money, but then when you get out, you discover it's actually not like that, which is real. But I think the other thing is when you're setting your goals in terms of what do I want to do for the future, you know, when it's no longer my parent pushing me to do medicine, it's important to ask yourself, why is this my goal? So I want to be a surgeon. Why do I want to be a surgeon? Is it because I want to save lives? Like when they rush that trauma victim in, because I want to be the first person there to like resuscitate, save them, maybe not resuscitate, but save them? Or is it because I think surgeons make money? Because those are two different reasons for your goal, and that goes a long way in your job satisfaction. So if I'm doing surgery because I want to make money, I'm going to get frustrated easily. Well, surgeons are really well paid, so maybe that's not a good example, but I'm going to get frustrated easily when I'm making the money, but I'm practically living in the hospital because I have to be there at 6 a.m. to do my surgeries or to start my day and things like that. Or you're like, oh, I want to be a pediatrician because I think kids are lovely. And then all you see are bratty kids all the time. So ask yourself, why is this my goal? And so once you figure out that if your goal is money, then you figure out how you can maximize your money-making potential as a physician and still get that, you know, the title like, my friend is a doctor. Someone asked the question, should a medical student worry about the perception of others and faculty if their other interest is at variance with local perceptions of what a doctor should be like? I say when you're in Rome, you act like the Romans. If that perception is going to delay you in medical school, then during work hours, you comport with it. One example that happened to me, this one is not whatever was, everybody that knows me in med school, they know that I love wearing trousers and t-shirts. Like I'm most comfortable when I'm wearing a pair of jeans. And I was a house officer. I'm even done with med school. And I went to the trauma center. I was on call. And they rushed in a trauma victim, and one of my professors, I won't mention his name, they called him in to come in, and immediately he saw me wearing jeans. It wasn't about patient care to him. I have never been so lambasted like that in my life. And it was like, get out and go and change and don't come back. And here I am trying to set the line for an accident victim. And the only thing that he was concerned about was, how dare you wear jeans in the evening I was on call. So if your outside interest is starting to impact, you know, some of our attendants, I don't know if they've changed now. I remember some of our attendants then or consultants, you walk into the exam hall and all they receive, they're like, the reason why they ask you 10 causes of malaria and you can't answer, or 10 causes of fever and you can't answer is because you had 1 million breeds. So in that situation, it's just temporary. It's during the work time. Conform. It won't cost you anything. It doesn't take away from your other interest. So those are things that, like, knowing what I know now, I won't even struggle. You want me to wear skirts all the time? I'll wear skirts. It's just for me to get through this period. And I'll finish my med school and I'll continue with life. So that's my own personal response to that.
And let me add to what you have said. I'll use myself as an example too. You can see I'm all on beards now, you know, and you can imagine way back, and even recently, you know, not too recent anyway, but some years back, someone who was our teacher then too, told me that, you know, but then it's the setting and you have to conform. If you want to be an outcast, it's going to be really difficult. You against the world. That's the way I'll put it. But if you're in another setting where, I remember back then, when a certain professor of ours told one of us, I know a lot of us remember that, you don't prostrate when you are on tie. You put out your hand and you shake. You remember Professor Ojo? That he was telling Ayabami then that when you want to greet somebody who is on tie and tie, you bring out your hand like this. But God help you, leaving his own department, go to another department and go and do like this. It may be, but in different settings, different situations, even in our homes, there are different things. In some homes, somebody who is older than you by a year has to be brother. But in some homes, it doesn't matter. It's you, Ayo, Kunle, Tokwe, it doesn't make any meaning. But for some, so when you are in Rome, you behave like the Romans. That's my own idea about that. And then when you now become your own man, your own doctor, your own self, okay. I remember back then in Ondo State, the University of Medical Sciences Teaching Hospital, when it was to be opened, there was a trauma center. The person who came from the US to do the training, the major training, came in dreadlocks. From the US, the doctor. All the people that will tell you, you should not do this, you should not do that, everybody was sucking up to him, following all the stuff it was. But then, over here, you dare not, even the patients here will see you, doctor to line show, it's just the way we are. So we just have to conform to what obtains around there.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is just remember that conforming doesn't mean that you're letting go of yourself. It doesn't mean you're changing who you are. So it's kind of like, I tell people, if you're a banker and your bank, they have a uniform, like a lot of banks will say red ties or blue ties to conform with their logo. You wear the red tie. That doesn't mean that you are still not the same bubbly person you are. It doesn't change anything about you. It just means that while you're at work, you are complying with the rules and regulations of your workplace. Another question, do you have any advice for those who might feel pressured and anxious regarding meeting up with the expectations? You're in med school, you're being told to look inward and speak to your younger self, etc. And you already feel time is running out, regardless of being still in med school. I would like your take, seeing as you have the special interest in mood and anxiety. Oh, well, so putting on my psychiatric cap, it's $10,000 per hour for consultation. I'm just joking. But I think this is where having that support system comes in. Having people that you can talk to, and the importance of mentorship or mentoring, however you want to put it. If you have a good support system around you, it helps to alleviate some of the pressure, because you have people that you can talk to. You have people that you can confide in, that you trust to hold what you've told them in confidence. When I was in residency, there were some issues going on with that I had, and I had people, like one or two people that I could confide in. And so when things get tough, I'll pick up the phone, like, hey, and we will talk. And by the time I'm done talking with them, they would provide guidance. They would help to alleviate some of the anxiety or the pressure that I was feeling. And so the next day I show up at work, I'm like, yeah, we're cool. And you move on from that. Time is always running out. But if there's stuff that you want to pursue, you just start. I think Bingala Fari said, it's never too late to start. So if there's stuff that you're interested in, you can start doing it slowly by the side. Just don't ever think, like my grandmother used to say, that it's only when you're dead that you don't have time to do anything. So as long as you're alive, you can start slowly, start from somewhere, even if it's like seeking out the people that have done it before, so that you can do that. In terms of if the stress or the pressure, the anxiety that you're feeling, if it gets to the point where it's starting to impact your ability to function, then you want to seek professional help. you want to talk to. Unfortunately, you know, Nigerian universities, we don't, even secondary schools, we don't have counselors that you go and tell your guidance counselor that I'm feeling depressed. They're like, what is there to depress you? Your parents are paying for your education. You are doing this, you are doing that. You're in med school. Don't you know it's a thing of, you know, pride to be in med school. So, but you can find help, find someone you can talk to, find someone that you can reach out to professionally that can help you and provide you that support that you're looking for. Yes, Dr. Tegbe, you are completely right. We having a support system, it's like in Nigeria, it's a badge of honor. If you're able to, you are strong, you know, you go through, like your consultant comes into ward, finishes you, rubbishes you in front of everybody else. And you just take it. And if you cry, then it seems like, you can't survive med school. It's not a thing of, how can you cry when your attending has finished abusing you and your generations have told you that, you know, it's a mistake that you got into med school. It doesn't know how you passed to get to part 5, you know, and all just because maybe you're wearing a multicolor tie, or maybe you forgot to wear your tie, or you're wearing bow tie instead of a regular tie, you know, or because like Dr. Adegunleye, you have beard, or you forgot to shave the morning before you came to school. They ask you what are 10 causes of fever, and you can only remember 5, you know. So that's kind of like find a support system.
Yes, adding to what you have said, although without a psychiatric cap anyway, you know, no, there's no psychiatric cap here. But then, you know, this on its own too is a support system. What we are doing here is a kind of support system. And I can remember vividly going to that question. You know, while we were graduating, there were so many people who were older than us, who were from sets ahead of us, who had to sit with us 93, 92. But when you look at it, in reality today, so many of them are doing very well. So many of them are doing better than their colleagues who they would have graduated with. You understand? So it's not about, don't let any of these things get you down or pull you down. It's something you have to, sadly so anyway, I believe it will have improved now, because I remember when I went back for MPH in Ife, you know, I saw so many cars parked in health sciences, so many. And I realized a lot of them were medical students' cars. And then nobody was making a fuss about it. At times, you will park behind the lecturer and he or she cannot go out and heaven will not fall, you know? So I believe things are getting better than what it used to be during our time. You know, the lecturers, their kids too are now. I remember things got better too. Then when lecturers' kids start getting into the system and everything. But then generally, nobody should allow himself to be brought down. You said something about mistakes. Everybody makes them. Decisions, timing, a lot of things, you know. But then, you know, one thing I've also learned is this: while in school, never judge anybody. Never think this one cannot make it. That one will be the best out of there. This one, you know, some don't even know. They won't rattle out 10 causes of malaria. But you see, these their hands. These their hands. They can use it to do and achieve anything. Okay. Surgically and everything. But some are also meant for internal medicine. You know, 1 million causes of this, and some of you, you know, you want to check what is going on here. Kilo nshele gongon, you know, but some are just, so please, let everybody just live their life, be good, discover yourself while you are there. Like I was telling you earlier today, I can't remember when last we spoke, even though, you know, as at this day and age now, you might live blocks away from each other and not have the time to see each other, because there are so many real life things, real life situations, deadlines that you have to meet. These are things we should achieve while back in school. Bond, make friends, and, you know,
basically, have fun. I think we have two people raising their hands, Dr. Tegbe and Dr. Lafari.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Tomide, nice to see you. It's been a while. Talk about how far, how you doing? Yeah. So just to go to that point that about the question about pressure, sincerely, as a medical student, I know that there is so much that's on your shoulders, that you feel that on your shoulders, but we have this weird or unnecessary expectation that's been placed on anybody who goes, number one, you scored whatever, you got into medical school, you're a medical student, and there's this weird expectation that is placed on you that you must be superhuman. Please, today, shove it off. You are human, number one. Remember the qualification, human. We make mistakes, and a lot of people have not sought out help because we felt that we are superhuman. See, you if you remember, people failed physiology or back then, right? And nobody even knew that you failed physiology, only for you to get into the exam hall and you now figure out that you see what are near receipts. You get, and it's just and it was from, is it because of pride, or is it because of shame and things like that? Rather, there were some people who rallied together. So just to try to break that conundrum that you're supposed to be human, you're supposed to power through everything. Try and seek out help, talk to people, reach out to people. This, like Tokwe said, this forum that we are creating here is for that. And talk to your friends, talk to other people, and just realize that as people say, Mawa Agwala Gushere, Abisare, and remember, you should always try to seek help as much as possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Dr. G.
It's so nice to be here this evening. Again, for me, long time. I don't think we've seen him.
It's been over about 15 years now.
On top of deck, good to see you too. So long. So I saw the topic of today's talk, and so so many memories just kept flowing through my head, But what I want to contribute is that Ife, where we all graduated from, has a culture. It has a lot of cultures, culture of respect and so on. So if you are in Ife, you need to imbibe those, because those cultures are going to help you later on in the future. There's no way I have seen Ife doctors that you not see them apart. They are just different. When they start doing things and they start talking or they start treating patients, you know that they are all from the same place. And it's because of that culture, okay? It's always there. I remember during my last medicine exam, that there was a craze about buying cars when we're entering clinicals. So that time, students don't park cars in the car park. There was a rule that time that we should not even park on the upper part of the car park. So we're parking beside the road. Everybody that was coming back from everybody had to travel to UK or US after part 3 before you enter clinical. So go and get ready to buy a car. So there is a car craze in our class that time, and almost everybody had cars. If you don't have car, you have friends that have cars, So I remember that I had a car at that time too. And when I was getting to during our last exam, our final exam in medicine, on that road between the teaching hospital and campus, I overtook one of our lecturers. I would not mention her name. She happened now to be my examiner. Hey, that's my exam started from treatment, came to diagnosis, then enter examination, and then finish in history. When I finished the exam, the chaperone, one of the resident doctors, came and said, "What did you do to that? He did the exam of a senior registrars for you." I don't know how I passed, but I know I can still remember that it's because I overtook her. And I didn't know that she's the one. but I overtook. So the culture is as bad as overtaking your lecturer. Who you be? You understand? You know, so there are some things that I expected of their standards. If those standards are still there in Ife, they are there, they are real, they are to be followed, and they are to help you in the future. That's my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I don't know. God will help us. I know the culture is changing, but change takes time. But I think this is my belief, and I would be completely wrong. Is I don't expect people to change, but I expect myself to evolve. I expect myself to change. So you work on yourself. Do your part to build the kind of future that you want, and then everything else will slowly fall in place for you. And that's it. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Oyelakin. Thank you so much, Dr. Adegunleye, for this session. Those stories you told made me laugh. And like you said, it doesn't matter how many times you fail, you make a mistake, you fall. The important thing is getting up to do that thing you thought you could never do right. Getting back up from wherever you've fallen or wherever things have gone wrong. So thank you so much for that. And that example about life is true. There is always a subjective perspective of you and an objective perspective. You always have to manage both what other people see about you, although that should not define your life, versus what you really are, who you are, and making the best version of yourself available each day, because it's your life at the end of the day. It's your life. Whatever you live, how you live it, is what will be left of it. So as we leave our path and our footprints in the sands of time, time will tell, history will tell what will be said of us. But thank you, everyone, teaching us about looking back into our younger self. And I hope that the medical students that are here and those that will watch after will learn a few tips from what you've done today and the things you've talked about. Thank you so much. We greet the people of Saudi Arabia, and we greet those in the United States and those in Nigeria. We know UK people are here as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. And we will see you again next month. An important announcement is that if you have further questions, you want to discuss mentorship opportunities, remember our speaker today talked about building a relationship with mentors. If you have anybody you have in mind you want to develop a relationship with, remember to send an email to OAUMed05@gmail.com so that we can connect you to that person. And then from there, you never know who, when, or where you would need that person if you ever do. So please send your emails, send your questions there, and we're happy to link you up to any of the speakers today and those that have spoken before now. Also, from next month, we are going to be having just one session a month. We're going to be toning down so that we can give the students exams, time to prepare for the exams, and also give our speakers time to handle other things that compete for time in life. So thank you everyone for this session, and hope to see you again very soon. Take care.
Nice to see everyone.
Thank you so much.
Love you too. Love you too.